Alright. So what was your vote on what was causing the 261 to act up here? Carburetor or electrical? Now, I should say that I did change the spark plug out on it, just first thing. See there, I'm seeing that flap is kind of lifted up. But the problem is, I don't know which carb kit I'm supposed to be able to use here. Let's see here. That looks like it's probably going to work. K22 HDA. It was showing K20 HDA, I think, that I needed. But we'll see if this one's going to... That looks like it lines up, so we'll see if that works. And change that out. It's probably this, would be my guess. But we'll change it out and see if that fixes it. Yeah, for this here, so I've blown it out, blown out all the orifices. For this here, you can use a razor blade just kind of at an angle like that. And it's getting off a lot of crust around here. And again, this doesn't look too bad, but when you go to change these out, see, like it's got all this kind of crust built up in there. And it's on the inside and the outside. Screen's nice and clean. Got all the corrosion off of there. Where the fuel inlet comes in, that's clear. Alright, let's see if this is going to work or not. Alright, so this... Yeah, that's a match there. Let's see. Looks like I'm looking for this piece. Yeah, perfect match. Perfect match. Good. Okay, so then we lay this down on top of here. Make sure it's lining up. No. Not like that. Yeah. That's how we do it. So you want to make sure all these holes are lining up across there. And same on this one. You got your little tabs there. And then we can go back on with this. There we go. So you got this little tab coming off this way and those little tabs coming off that way. I think that was going to be the culprit, but good to know that the K22 HDA works good. Alright, next, let's get into the bottom side here. Yeah, I'll have a follow-up coming up for that Husqvarna 44. Okay, yeah, there was some damage, minimal damage to that. Crust on here. Again, you can take your razor blade really carefully here. Don't normally like to use a razor blade, but getting around these little pins, really no other way to do it quite so well. And this is still nice and pliable. I don't really see too many issues with that. Yeah, it still seems nice and pliable, but there could be something stuck there. Yeah, there's just... No, it's gone now. It seems okay, but it's probably not. Alright, so now, see, now we can clean all this rust and stuff off of there. That was not good. Yeah, it's nice every once in a while to have the instructions in front of you while you're working on this, because sometimes I get out of sorts and forget to do something or do something in the incorrect order. So you can see here coming off the bottom of the carb, you've got that plate, then your metering diaphragm, and then the gasket. So if you don't have one of these printed out, it's probably a good idea to go online and get one. That way you can just kind of verify all of your stuff is correct on there. So now the hard part. I inspected all these gaskets and they look pretty good. There was some kind of gunk, I guess, right there. So maybe clean up a little bit of this gunk on the gasket if you can. And I could make new gaskets, but this gasket looks pretty good. And I'm not seeing anything that's too terribly wrong with it, other than a little bit of schmutz on it there. So this one would have sat right up against the engine, right here. But the problem is, how do you hold this in place as you're going to get everything on there, right? And the way that it's going onto here is like so. And then this slides, of course, through here and onto there. But there's nothing to hold this gasket to this or this in there, other than putting this in there and then trying to slide this on with the gasket. And it is, I mean, that slides in there just fine, but then, alright, we're missing a gasket now, so, you know, problems like this are going to come up. And this is where you need some sort of gasket adhesive stuff. Alright, so I'm going to try just a little bit of the Moto Seal here. Very little bit, very little around. Very little around the vacuum here. That looks pretty good. We'll let that set up for a little bit here before we put it on there. You can see all the holes are lined up and everything. And then there'll be another gasket here. You know what? Let's just put this one on the same way while we got the Moto Seal out and everything. Alright, yeah, believe it or not, anybody can do this type of stuff. I am not, you know, especially skilled, but I do kind of try to think through everything, so, you know what, let's just, no, we can't. See, that's the problem. You can't put this in there first, because it's got to sit down on here. So, we're going to try to just plunge it in there. Now, this has been setting up that Moto Seal for a little bit, but before it got completely sealed, I went ahead and put this assembly together, and now everything is kind of held tight, so I can wrench this down, watching it go in there, and hopefully get it all lined up on the first try. I want to get it seated in there with that Moto Seal to try and mitigate any issues that are going to come up here. Now here is where you really want to take your time. Get your flashlight. Make sure you aren't crushing any gaskets. Make sure they're still seated on there right and everything. Everything looks good. We'll continue going here. There we go. Looks like everything's seated there. Kind of an odd setup on here. The carb is upside down from what most of these are going to be. Oh shoot. Yeah, I can't hook this up. I've got to hook this up before I get the carb in there. So I've got to let it sit like that for a while. But yeah, you can see the carb here is upside down of what most of them would be. So kind of interesting there. I'm trying not to change too many things at once so we can solve the problem and figure out why it was acting strange to begin with. But just normal routine maintenance is telling me I need to blow all this stuff out. And this was caked. I mean, with greasy, oily dirt and like, it looked like something was trying to live in there. Maybe a dirt dauber stuffed down in there. So, I mean, in all reality, I probably shouldn't even tried to run this saw without doing all this stuff first, but I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. Alright, so we're trying to replace this pull cord. It's looking like it wants me to take this whole assembly out, because like this kind of catches on this lip inside of here. So I'm going to try to take all these out without unspooling the starter recoil inside of here, that big round spring, because it's just no fun trying to... Oh, hello. Okay. So let's remember that goes on. And now... Okay. Good deal. The spring stayed in there. Good. Now, one thing you can do to kind of increase the longevity of your spring is to oil it up a little bit here. You can already see some surface rust on there. But, alright, so what I use for my pull cords, I don't like this thicker cord. I just use regular paracord. So, that's what I'll be using. And, I've used this for years on certain saws, primarily the 031, just because it was all I've had. But it actually makes starting, like pulling over the engine easier, as well as being durable and holding up. So, yeah, so that's not coming off there. Wants to latch on there. See, it's got that little latch in it right there, and that's going to come around and catch right there, it looks like. There we go. Front. So all in all, just kind of a weird saw, but I want to fix it to the point where it's running before I think about doing anything to it. And that's kind of the point of what's going on here. Fix it till you know you have a good running saw, figure out where it's at, and then you can go to like figuring out what you want to do as far as porting it or upgrades that you want to make to it. So yeah, that's where we will start. Okay, and then for this, the secret sauce is going to be in holding the rope And for that I use a set of vice grips. Okay, so what we want to do here is you're gonna be pulling. Remember how to preload it here. There we go. You gotta stick it through there, running around. Preload it like that. Now this looks to be a little long, but it'll hold tight to about there. Okay, so now I'm going to have my vice grips handy and my new handle. And I'm going to leave a little bit extra on there just to kind of get a feel for where it's at. Yeah, like I said, from the 61, I mean, everything is just a little bit different on this one. It actually incorporates this top cover into the air filter housing. So when this goes on there, the air filter is actually sitting up in here and pulling down into here. So you really want to make sure this is all cleaned out in here. Otherwise it's going to be sucking that dirt just right down into there. But yeah, so that sits like that, and then that sits on there like that. And it's all one assembly, so it's got these extra clips to really hold it down there. And it's got, this screw is actually accessible without the handlebar in the way, which is kind of nice. Okay, let's try starting this with a bar on it. I'm not maybe quite ready to put a chain on it yet, but I guess I could start it like that, because it's got its deal there. All right, well, I guess we'll just try to start it like that, see what happens. Well, springtime is soon approaching. And I've got something a little different today. I've got some stock saws we're going to run to see like baseline data before we go and do crazy things with them. So I picked this one up. This one's going to be Johnsrud 2165. And then this one is that 261. So the 265 has a little bit on it, but there's something not quite right. There was some light scoring on the piston also. So I'm not going to be running it too hard. I don't want to destroy the jug or anything. So compression's going to be down a little bit on this one versus this one. But this one is so much older. Stock configuration. Nothing scientific here. We're just going to try them out. See how this one's running now. Let's start with this one. See how it wants to start here. I was pretty happy with that. Let's try this one now. See how it wants to start. Alright, well that's going to be the first look at this 2165. I ran it out of oil there. I didn't want to keep going on it, but you can see there it's cutting pretty good. It's just got a completely different feel, completely different sound than what I was getting from this one. This is actually a pretty rowdy saw just right out of the box. I may do some stuff to this one, I may not. It seems to be running pretty good. It's got like a different size bar style mounts than everything else. Like I said, everything is just a little bit different. I may just let this one go as is, as a good running saw. I don't know yet. What do you guys think I should do with it? What do you think I should do with this one? Down there in the comments, let me know. Thanks for joining me today on Man Time, guys. Get out there, have you some man time too.